And I'm okay with that.
All right. We're getting it together.
Today I will take time to honor a sacred moment, no matter the circumstances around me.
Sorry, I'll turn it up.
My happiness is my responsibility.
Hey.
And I'm okay with that. Y'all saw me get up. That's new. I ain't bust that move yet.
Hey.
Shout out to Fee's lipstick.
I tried something new.
How y'all feeling?
Asked Karika if it was cool. He said it was cool,
Oh,
so I went
cool.
with it.
She did that.
Something different.
How y'all doing? How you doing?
I was gonna answer for them, but I'm doing well. Thank you. How are you?
Good.
Karika, your B-Day is in a few days.
Uh-huh. Yes. Yup. January 26th.
Yup.
The Earth Strong is coming.
Yup.
35.
I thank you for the response. Blessed. It's the lips for me. Thank y'all. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Beautiful day.
All is well. Yeah.
Beautiful rainy day here in the Bay, in Oakland. Probably falling all over Northern California. That's all right with me. Before the rain fell, though, I was able to get up and go for a nice bike ride and,
Mm-hmm.
my self-work on the pull-up bar. That's just a good place to challenge myself.
Awesome. Yeah, we were asked how we're doing. There's interaction.
Big ups.
Yeah.
Big ups.
Happy early birthday to you as well. I'm reading everything. Sorry.
That's fine. It's all good.
Love y'all as well. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's Sunday. I guess I could have took that deep breath with you.
No, it's all good. Take one. I got you again.
Thank you.
What brings you to the space today?
My answer is the same every week. Every time Curry asks me what brings me to the space, it's reference. Mm-hmm. We are here for reference. I recall very, I guess, specifically how it felt in the early stages of my grief, or I won't call them stages, but when I first intersected with it, I felt very alone.
Mm-hmm.
And so I remember what that feeling is like. Looking to understand what is happening, why something is happening to me. How are people who are experiencing something similar to what I'm experiencing getting through? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I come for reference.
It's important. It's important to say it to yourself each time, so that we remember. Mm-hmm. Joe, what's up? It's important to say it to ourselves so we remember. It helps you go through the space, experience the space, with the courage to be present and transparent. And although this is a digital connection, it comes from a very real place in our hearts. And we understand the importance of reference for folks who are experiencing grief. We understand the importance of connectedness and belonging. That's what brings me here. And I'm glad we can be here together. And I'm really glad that there's a community like this to do this with us, right? From whatever reasons, to do this with us is beautiful.
I see some folks answering why they come to the space. I come for community. I come for peace. We thank y'all for being present with us as we are reference for each other.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. reference for each other, reference for a world to come. The one that we don't know is here yet, the one that is on its way. The Here to leave this reference is so critically important because it's evidence
Mm-hmm.
of a road traveled.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's evidence of love, God's grace, however you define it.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever moments feel like breath or reprieve. Um, Alicia, what's up? Earlier, um, Alicia said hi, and I wanted to say hi back to her. That's my friend.
Shonda Tamika says today is my only brother's heavenly birthday. I still grieve 20 plus years later, but God.
Mm. Well, happiest of birthdays in your ability to recall the love, in your ability to recall the cadence of his laughter,
Mm-hmm.
the angle of his smile, maybe the way you feel when you hear his voice. Those are all very powerful connections, and I honor um, that for whoever. It's so nuanced.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, bless y'all.
I also said I would come today because I was doing some offline journaling and some online journaling,
Mm-hmm.
and I was having trouble capturing those feelings in the writing. Um, but as some of you all may have seen, uh, we were just recently featured on Afrotech for Soul Affirmations. And I recognize what that means to the community that participates in that world.
Mm-hmm.
But I was still so, I guess you say, overwhelmed in recalling the journey, the possibility of even being here in that way. Um, I want to bring us to a point in your memory, Fee. Um, in the early onset of our grief, our first intersection,
Mm-hmm.
when you were very clear and very adamant that nothing could come from this.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember the complication of standing with you in that position,
Mm-hmm.
affirming you in that position,
Mm-hmm.
making room for you to feel that way while trying to honor and resolve what was happening inside of me
Mm-hmm.
as a new father whose heart has just been shifted to make room for his child. But when my heart shifted, I still had capacity for love. My my composition moved to receive more love.
Mm-hmm.
And honoring nothing can come from this, but also honoring the passageway that is love and knowing that I can't control what happens when I have submitted myself to love. I don't know what's going to come from this, right? Was was my operationality. But in love, things grow. And I didn't know what the growth would be. The first growth that I experienced was in our ability to love one another even deeper, um, to make more room for deep listening for one another. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
our grief, that love empowered this closeness,
Mm-hmm.
forged by a fire, if you will. But I also knew that from attending the grief spaces with you, with us, before COVID, we attended a lot of grief support groups for parents who've experienced loss, for people who've experienced loss, for families who've experienced loss. And I remember what would happen when Felicia and I were in those spaces together. Um, there was no rainbow, there was no arc of, oh, this is why. But our love, you could feel it in the space. It would transform the space. I would often hear from other women um, that uh, in many spaces, their partners, their husbands, weren't afforded the opportunity to do what I was doing or didn't know how yet to do what I was doing. And our love would transform the room without even trying to create good news. There was no
Mm.
good news to talk about, but it was the way we could be present for one another.
Hmm.
And that was another indicator to me that, oh, I mustn't hold on to this. I mustn't keep this just here. This reference need to be made available, um, so that we can love more abundantly, but also to like invite uh, men to like honor their grief
Hmm.
instead of relying on our identity of work. A lot of men may identify, I know I identify deeply in my work, um, insofar as my work is connected to my purpose, but work will take my time. I will gladly give my time to work. But I also know that that is a path of escapism for many of us.
Hmm.
So I didn't know what would come from it, but I knew that we couldn't hold it. I knew that I couldn't hold it in. I also knew that there was a time for my silence. I now know that I was silent because I wasn't speaking. God was speaking. I was seeking, but there was nothing for me to say until there was something for me to say. I couldn't see rooms where people were struggling with operationalizing their grief or when weren't being gentle with themselves. That was one of the hardest things for me to sit through, to watch someone punish themselves um, because of the way they were feeling, because maybe they haven't heard or been reminded that what they're feeling is love. Their grief isn't something wrong with them. They are not under functioning. They're just at where they are. So yeah, it was just important to me to like create the conditions for folks to be able to know that, the reminders that we need. In the grief support groups, there were always reminders. The group was able to do that for each other in different ways. But there was only a small handful of people in those rooms and a whole lot more grief in the world.
Hmm.
So what do we do then with that moment, that opportunity? How do we make it? How do we make the reference available? Kind of became my thinking.
Hmm.
I I recognize, Felicia, um, that there's this transition that's unaddressed in how this goes.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm expressing, I guess, is I couldn't exactly control what reference would look like. I didn't know where it would take me. I didn't know where it would take us.
Hmm.
You get what I'm saying? Well, yeah, I guess being referenced, that was just surrendering to it. I didn't know where it would go.
I think this is the first time I've heard you process this in this way.
Mm-hmm.
And so my silence is I'm doing deep listening, but also um, kind of listening in intersected with how I feel and how
Mm-hmm.
I was feeling
Mm-hmm.
in those moments,
Mm-hmm.
right? Yeah, I didn't know. I mean, I knew that we stood in different places.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I had never even identified, I never even counted it, the love and the hugs and what everyone may have observed from us as being something that came from this.
Mm.
So, I mean, full transparency and context for me, um, when I said nothing can come from this, I meant absolutely, like, no one can find any type of enlightenment from what I just experienced. And I said that because I felt at that time, in offering words of comfort, people would offer me um, a jump in my processing that I was not even ready to start at that time, of where and what this could mean. That
Mm-hmm.
was a trigger for me.
Mm-hmm.
Major, major, major trigger for me. Nah. Even
Mm-hmm.
I think I'll say it today. Nah.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, One, I'm realizing, um, I'm realizing the significance of being present in the process, not being rushed for the comfort of someone else either.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I admit, like, it's not really comfortable to sit with someone in their grief. You know, 'cause naturally you want things to look and feel differently, because when you're sitting with someone in their grief, you're grieving too. You're feeling it.
Mm-hmm.
So there are words that can be offered to you that come from a very beautiful, well-intentioned place, but where they land is so vast from where they come from for the person that's grieving. So,
Mm.
yeah, my thing was nothing can come from this. Absolutely nothing. I won't even position myself for it. For it to be a testimony for anybody, for it to be enlightenment for anybody, like none of that. It ain't happening. Um,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and I wanted that to be respected, because that's actually a part of the process to how I even can have this conversation now,
Mm-hmm.
right? I can acknowledge that at that point I didn't understand the significance of reference because I hadn't started looking.
Oh.
So
Oh, that's so good. That's so good. I hadn't recognized the point of reference because I haven't even started looking.
I hadn't.
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't started looking at all. Um, I had to sit in my despair a little bit longer to start to feel like I gotta, someone has got to tell me how this is gonna go. How is it going? Is this forever? Um,
Lisa says you deserve to experience your pain
yeah,
as you needed
yep.
to take the time. There's an intersection right there. There was also a place that was really powerful, Felicia. You said the words are coming from well-intentioned place, but where they land is so vast from where they're intended to.
Where they were delivered
Where they
from.
were delivered from. And that's important to operationalize and say, thank you for bringing that to our attention, the world. Um, because I'm going to give quickly before going into another point of that. When I was doing the grief circles for mothers who've lost children to gun violence,
Mhm.
and with Be Imaginative and me knowing what it's like to lose a brother, I remember Dr. Nicole Clavo was one of the first mothers I'd spoken to after I experienced the loss of my brother.
Mhm.
And I remember praying to God to take my words from me. My words don't have the depth. My words don't have the understanding to even approach a mother.
Mhm.
So speak through me, or I don't want to speak at all. But I meant that earnestly. I've seen people try to deliver a word from God to you, Um, and the reason why that was out of order to me is because Felicia had her own path to ask God her own questions, and it did not require your interpretation of that communication process. I was totally confident in your own questioning process and God's time with you. But I
Mm.
will say, Felicia says I had to sit in my despair a little bit. Silence is enough. I had to sit in my despair a little bit to make my sense of orientation of where I'm at. What I want to operationalize for the community that's listening is that Felicia gave birth. My role as husband and partner was first servant, first helpmate, but I didn't give birth. So at the time that I experienced the news of Kamayu's transition, I wasn't sitting down or laying down. I was already standing on my feet.
Mm.
That charges me different because I didn't collapse. When I didn't collapse, I was so desperately like just searching for like, then what do I do?
Mm.
It didn't knock me off my feet like, and that scared me because I don't know where my next step is. So I made my identity in serving you until I can figure out what my job was. I didn't know what I was supposed to do as an angel father, but I didn't get knocked off my feet and I didn't lose my mind. I remember not losing my mind and I was confused. Like, shit, you mean I'm gonna really take this sober?
Mm.
My reality is really gonna, like, my cognition is really here. I'm not passed out. I mean, that type of shit makes you almost wish you can take a pause from life. Put me in, put me in the afterlife, put me somewhere else but here. But I
Mm.
was present the entire time. So for me, my starting point looked a little different. I didn't have to lay down to heal. I can get up and go to the bathroom. I could look myself in the mirror days before you could. So I was having different conversations with myself in between the portion of being full-time helpmate to you. So my cognition was different. I was having different thoughts. Looking at myself in the mirror trying to figure out this reality was a different thought, right?
Mm.
And so there begins my own investigative process on what is this life about to be.
Mm.
I'd already started investigating. What is
Mm.
this life about to be?
I see.
My questions started early. My questions also started early relative to having lost my brother 6 years prior and was definitely in the work. That's how I ended up doing the work with Be Imaginative in the Healing Circles, because I was still sorting my feelings, trying to reconcile what it means for my brother to have departed us. So my questions go off differently because of my experiences. My past lived experiences inform my cognitive processes and pathways. So I start to ask myself questions sooner.
Mm.
Just like if you have been in an experience or in a place where you experienced violence and you remember what that was like, and you remember what the assailants were like, and you remember, so you have a propensity to watch around anytime you're in that particular setting because
Mm.
your brain sends a signal that there could be potential danger. To the same way that our brains inform us about spaces and settings, receiving unfathomable, swipe, next one, but receiving these like this message that I couldn't do anything with right away, but I deeply remember that feeling of like, I don't want this reality, but I'm not passing out. I'm not leaving. I'm not going crazy. I'm not punching people. I'm not breaking furniture. What am I supposed to do? My mind was with me the whole time.
Right.
You were under anesthesia. You had to come back to consciousness. You get what I'm saying? So my questions just started early. But we had the same day.
But we had
Different.
the same day.
So I think I'm finally, I think this is the first time that we're having this conversation about what that moment was like for us differently.
We are.
This is the first time. This didn't even come up in therapy. And that's a highly effective space for us. But I think it was brought on by the publication.
Yeah.
That's what happened. How did I get here? Yep. Yeah. I had to ask myself, how did I get here?
How did I get here?
It says couple uses their loss to forget the headline. But I guess the curiosity.
To create the affirmation album.
Yep, create an affirmation album.
Yeah.
But watch this. The affirmation album was created before we found our grief.
You ain't lying.
We were pregnant with Kamayu when we recorded that album. The vocals that you're listening to, when you listen to it, Kamayu is with us. In utero, right? She's in your womb. Yep. Felicia was big pregnant.
I was big pregnant.
Yeah, recording. And my favorite part about the recording, when we were recording it, I did my read first. Felicia then went in with Damani, and Damani was like, "Oh, this is it." It's like your breath was so present. Yes, Jafar. Yes, Jafar. Yes, Jafar.
So y'all know Jafar is in the house.
Chill, dog. I'm going to have to take a deep breath and reposition myself. Y'all should see how frustrated I'm feeling right now. My toes curled. I got so upset. Jafar.
I don't understand. He wasn't even there.
He should really just chill. Like, let the moment be the moment. There. Chill, son.
And I was listening.
Yeah. Okay. So, I'm going to do this. So when we're recording the album, I feel like he's just affirming you. That's of Sash. Thank you so much for that interpretation. I needed that. And
VC said it's because he knows I'm here.
That's exactly why.
That's not true.
And yes, it is.
No, VC,
yes, it is.
That's not true. He loves you. Stop.
No. So, recording this, we were actually pregnant with Kamayu. So to think that we're creating reference for ourselves and the world, it was created before we even needed it. What? How? What does that even mean? What does that even mean? It takes time. That definitely is that one takes time. So to think that the world, we didn't know anything about COVID coming. We didn't know the massive grief the world was about to experience when we were recording this album. We didn't know the grief we were about to experience when we were recording this album.
Yeah, I had no clue.
Only you can bear what is for you. If there is a God and God is here, only you can be with what is.
With what is for you. We all have different stories, but all feel pain. Your divine light always sets fire to me.
I love
Soul
you.
expression.
That's my dear brother.
Jafar obviously affirms this. Hey, Ia, our niece in the house.
What's happening, baby? So yeah, I just think about recording this project. It's showing up for the world. It's showing up for us. about Kamayu being there, leaving a note, transitioning on in her journey, but she was there to leave a note for us and the world alike. You could have easily not been well enough to record that day. Pregnancy can be very different for folks. But you were well and delivered so profoundly clear. Didn't Fee sound good in that project? Didn't she sound good on that project? I'm not taking this well.
Oh, Jafar's answering you, and
Jafar, just come into the room. It's not funny.
Jafar.
Okay, that's enough. No, he's not gonna stop.
You can go grab him.
All right, y'all. I'll be back.
Karika has to grab him because it can be a bit much for the processing.
Yo, son is in here sitting on the road, big chilling. He's on the chair.
Get him. Yeah, somebody asked us Jafar. Jafar is a bird. He's a blue Indian ringneck. Very social. I'm sorry. What were you saying?
Hey, everybody. You want to talk now since you want to be in the middle of every dialogue? He could have stayed up here. He was chilling.
No, he's gonna sit here. Cause he might start preening your beard. And that can be too much. Jafar is working on Karika's nerves.
Jafar is working on my nerves, y'all.
Yeah.
Working. But you know what's really unique about having a companion in a bird or in a dog or a fish or a cat, or not really much as a fish. But like, you have to know about yourself in order to show up with love for your animal companion. Like they're not trying to trigger you to do anything other than love. They're not trying to take you away from it. But Jafar has literally like taught me to breathe deep, has taught me to forgive. Jafar has bitten up so many of my shoes.
Oh.
Jafar went through a chapter where like my shoes. And it's different than when a dog bites your shoes, because it's hard to see 1,000 little pieces because he has a beak and he's just beaking away. It's hard to see that. It's hard to see that and not punch him. But you can't punch a little bird.
This little feather. This little ball of feathers.
Oh, but then, okay, what happens when Jafar bit me right before a video shoot?
Oh, Karika, no, don't tell the secrets.
This is what really happened to me.
No.
Did he
but
not?
It was a misunderstanding.
It wasn't, but because it was a misunderstanding, it taught me to really check in with myself. Because there's no way this bird wanted to, do that. Had no context of what day it was. Yes, this is real.
Got no context of the day. He didn't.
Nah.
No, all that is important to Jafar is he gets attention and attention.
But y'all do understand why this bird is so important to us, right? This bird flew away for 2 months and 17 days. 2 months and 17 days.
That is a true story.
It's a real story.
He flew away Karika and I, when we were living in Maryland, we came to Sacramento for Karika's brother's funeral, and he had exhausted his relationships prior to us leaving, so I couldn't leave him with anyone, so I had to bring him.
Exhausted.
And so, yeah, he flew away while we were visiting family in Sacramento.
He at one point he used to be able to like stay on our shoulder even when we were outside.
Yeah, he was good with that.
He was cool with it. But then he started getting real independent inside and working on his flight laps. He had a lot of space in the house to fly and practice flying.
Yeah. He
So,
yeah, so he was trying to fly. When a bird when a when a domesticated bird um has no experience outside, their flight looks different.
mhm,
They don't have a strong landing. Um, Sometimes they might get a beak scuff from their landing.
because they haven't learned to fly with the crosswinds.
Yeah, yeah. So
Wow.
Jafar was in the garage trying to figure it out, and the garage was like slightly closed. My mama, my mom says hello, and he goes out as he's trying to land underneath the door. And once his wings hit that wind, he was gone.
Gone, 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 gone. Um,
Yeah.
One thing I do remember distinctly about those days of looking for the bird, the nephews and nieces were invested. It was fun to help us look for a bird. It was fun to, get the reward from their uncle. And my dearest nephew, Irie, who I'm very proud of, he turns and says, "This is stupid. I'm tired of looking for a blue bird in the blue sky." And he quit. He quit right there.
Ia says I remember that. Yeah, yeah. I was gonna pay y'all $20 if y'all
Remember that,
found
Ian?
him.
For real. He said he quit.
He did.
Do you know how heartbroken it was to have your nephew quit on you while you're looking for the bird? But he had a valid point. He was tired of looking for a blue bird in the blue sky. So Jafar is connected to a lot of our love, a lot of our faith, a lot of our, it's the things we've seen.
Yeah, I mean, I can't deny it. I I prayed for Jafar to come home every day after that. Literally, that's what I did every single day until one day I decided that I wasn't gonna pray anymore. Um, we were in church and there was I forget whose song it was, but it was like nothing is impossible for you. You hold the world in your hands. And when that part of the song came on, it just hit me differently that day. And I was just like, man, I'm not finna pray for this no more because I already asked. And so that was Sunday. I didn't pray about it since June 26th. This was in September. And on Friday, I get a call from a 916 number that I usually don't answer calls that are not saved in my phone. But I answered it this day. And a woman says, Felicia? And I said, yes. And she said, I think I found your bird.
Now pause. The only reason why that happened, Felicia started to make ads. And Felicia also hired my little sister to put bird signs up. And
that was terrible.
But where we live, y'all, like, it wasn't like the hood, but it's hood enough to know nobody.
Man,
nobody
and
about,
she
nobody about to help you
printed
look
black
for
and white flyers.
Listen, y'all, she printed black
the
and white.
The bird is blue with a red beak.
So Fee also did online ads, and apparently there's a whole community of people that care.
Yeah, y'all. There's a whole community in Northern California that helps you find your bird.
All right, so look. Okay, we also.
Y'all laughing at me.
Okay,
I don't care.
Before Jafar went far, far away, we could hear him in the neighborhood.
Yeah, I saw him the next day. We found him.
Yeah,
and
he would
we
talk.
Actually called the fire department to come help. I'm not telling this whole story today.
She called the fire department for a bird.
I did not call the fire department. I called the what is it? The 411 line to try and get the pet people.
And how'd you end up getting to the fire department?
They did that.
They did that. Y'all, do you understand? Do you understand what it looks like for a whole damn fire department truck to come out and the ladder, and they're trying to get the ladder, but they can't get the ladder for this bird. So then they're like, okay, what do you want us to do? And Felicia was like, well, so they use their hose to try to get him out the high tree, hoping that he would fly to a close tree. and he just been the block, right?
We
So
chasing this bird all over the
this is
neighborhood,
days
y'all.
now. So I'm waking up, and this is also happening in the context of grief, right? This is
It was too much.
was was Kareem.
It was 2014.
No, was he buried yet, or was it this after the burial?
No,
So
this was no. This was no. This was he was not buried yet. This was right before.
so do you understand how hard it is for her to be having this feeling of
Oh
like
my
I
gosh, I
miss
was
my
so by
bird, my grief,
myself,
but
and
nobody in
that's
her reach.
fine. Yeah.
But nobody in reach was able to have the capacity to care for a bird
Hell
the
no.
way she cared for the bird because we were experiencing our feelings surrounding our brother. So, but I'm laying down and I could hear Jafar outside the window. So sometimes I would get up to go look, and Felicia was already outside looking for Jafar, talking to Jafar in trees. And people in the neighborhood are really starting to get a little concerned that
Yeah, they thought I was crazy. I'm
yeah, because
sure
she's
of it.
talking to trees. She's
But
talking.
when I found him, when we spotted him, then I wasn't crazy. Now the hard part was getting him to come down. Either way, I'm not telling this whole story, but I will close with I got a call from a woman on that Friday. And she said she had my bird. Well, she said she
I think I
found
found
him.
your bird.
And prior to that, I had gotten some other calls of people thinking that it was Jafar. And when they would describe him, I'm like, that's not him. But when she described it, she was like, no, I'm pretty sure it's him. I have birds at my house. And I was walking on my lunch break and he flew on my head and then flew back into the tree. Now,
For a bird
she,
stuck in the fence.
yeah. See? No, you could call the fire department for birds and cats. And either way, so she's like, you should come down here and get him. And I was like, well, the thing about it is, I live in Maryland. I told her the whole story, what happened, the loss of Kariga's brother, and how we ended up coming back home without him. And so she said, okay, well, I can try and get him. You know, what does he like? So I tell her, he likes apples and almonds. And I called my mom, who happened to be off work that day. And I was like, Mom, I need you to go downtown between 12th and 13th. Jafar is there in a tree. And we called heckin' people to just try and come and get this bird. And no, it's all good. You go like that. And I think, what did I do? I called Kariga, I called Dominica, I called Jabrilla, VC. I think I called you too, to tell everybody that Jafar had been found. Nobody believed me because I refused to believe that he wasn't coming back home. I just didn't understand it. I was like, this don't even make no sense to me. Why would I lose my bird? And I
Y'all, this is a true story.
decided, like, no, I'm gonna believe that Jafar is gonna come back. And so I had to really put into practice what that was. And like I said, I prayed every day. I called my dad. My dad was the last person I called. He was riding with me the whole time and believing it. And he said one last prayer about it. I hang up the phone. The lady calls me back and she's like, Felicia? And I'm like, yeah. She's like, I got him. And I just bawled.
And she was able to get him because Jafar's ass was hungry because he has a domesticated diet, okay? And he couldn't get no wild almonds out there because there's bigger birds who ain't gonna let him get no almonds. And he can't crack the the
What?
what do almonds come like?
Oh, he can't crack that
Exactly.
shell.
He can't crack the shell. So when she pulled them fresh almonds out, okay, he saw them almonds in the palm, and he recalled that he's eaten almonds out of palm before. And my guess is that he was hungry for some almonds, and he decided to come back home.
But the divine part about it is this woman was a bird owner. Okay. Now, I don't know how many of you are bird owners,
Yeah.
but if you happen to not be a bird owner and say a bird flew on your head and flew back in the tree, you'd probably be like, what the hell? You wouldn't. But this woman who was a bird owner looked up and was like, no, that looks like a pet bird. And she went in her office and she typed in the description of the bird and she found my number. So,
And was it before he left or after he left? He started singing "Return of the Mac." Jafar sings "Return of the Mac."
I don't remember.
Hey y'all, Jafar sings "Return of the Mac,"
We're
and
not
that's how I
doing this.
know this bird is mine.
I don't want to talk about Jafar no more.
But that's how I know this bird is mine. This is how we have that.
We came here for reference,
Yes, we have.
and
And reference includes situations and contexts in which it just seems deeply unbelievable, right?
Yeah.
Uh, but someone has trotted the land. So maybe this is reference for somebody who maybe felt silly for grieving the loss of a pet, but your pet can return. If you haven't found your animal, can return, right? And it's hard to actually like feel that grief in the world because so very many people understand why that companion means so much to you. But, you know,
Mm.
they're not just animals.
Mm-hmm.
They're companions that learn us and learn to hold space with us and love us. So we love y'all and we're grateful for y'all. Um, and thank y'all for supporting Soul Affirmations. Uh, we'd like you all to also subscribe to our YouTube.
Yeah, we're trying to, and excuse me, in the continuation of reference being so important, reference very important to me when I needed it, and for anyone else who is experiencing grief, loss, and experiencing the processing of it all. We are looking to continue to expand in our reference. So
Mm-hmm.
we're trying to also build that, I guess, in our YouTube
So
and
that's
YouTube spaces.
yeah.
Yeah.
So what's that YouTube backslash Soul and Love,
Yeah.
SOL and Love, Soul and Love. Um, subscribe, but there's going to be more storytelling that happens there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, as a multi-dimensional creative, the stories come out in so many different ways. Thank y'all for following with the music. Thank you for following with our story in the many ways we tell it, in the many spaces we tell it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
So the question was, what is the name of the YouTube page?
Soul and Love.
Yeah, it's backslash soul and love, right?
Yep. SOL and Love.
Mm-hmm. Source of light and love.
Mm-hmm.
No, there isn't a second book. We are still centered in soul affirmations text here, and I guess we can, if we close, we can close with an affirmation. Yeah, I mean,
Can I try one?
Yeah, you go for it. Based on tonight's conversation.
Yeah, let's see what I can.
Hey, thank you, Shania. Okay.
I choose to make peace with what today has come to teach me. I choose to make peace with what today has come to teach me.
I choose to make peace with.
It's probably off over there.
Oh, sorry, y'all.
Pull up, pull up, pull up, pull up, pull up, pull up.
I choose to make peace with what today has come to teach me.
I choose to make peace with what today has come to teach me.
I choose to make peace with what today has come to teach me.
So I hold of importance that you don't control the when and you don't control the how, but you come as reference. There is a road that lies ahead, and it's brought us all together, and we're grateful for being connected to you. Thank y'all for holding space with us. Yeah, I love you, and I appreciate y'all.
I love you too.
Big love.
Y'all. A massive love.
Yep. feel like we miss hella